October 1997, Boca Raton, Florida. In the blink of a traffic light, paradise is lost. Two bullets strafe the idling car of multimillionaire John Grossman and his wife, Heather. John is wounded in the chin. Heather is hit in the neck, her spinal cord severed. Incredibly, she survives. Who wanted this power couple assassinated in broad daylight? Almost everyone says this man, Ron Samuels, wealthy businessman and Heather's ex-husband. Jealousy, money, glamour, and high-flying reputations are all tangled in this sensational case. A beautiful woman and mother of three is left a quadriplegic as two multimillionaires accuse each other of attempted murder. In the end, it's Ron Samuels who's locked up for life here in Florida's Union Correctional Institution. Did the law get the right man? I'm Candice DeLong. As an FBI agent, I worked on the front line for the world's most powerful law enforcement agency. I went undercover, I trailed terrorists, and I interviewed notorious killers. It's my job to understand the people who others cannot comprehend. Ron and Heather Samuels seemed to live a charmed life. From the moment the millionaire businessman met the former cheerleader and flight attendant in the mid-1980s, they had the finest things and raised 3 children in luxury. But by 1992, it's all turned sour. The couple goes through a bitter divorce. And Heather finds a new life with another millionaire, John Grossman. For years, Ron Samuels argues over child support and claims his children are being abused by their stepfather. Then it all comes to a head on October 14th, 1997. Two hitmen fire on the couple as they drive to lunch. It looks like an ex-husband's revenge. And that's just what a jury finds 9 years later. That Ron Samuels ordered his ex-wife's execution. Ron says the real mastermind was sitting in the driver's seat that day. John Grossman. After 16 years in prison, Ron, now 65 and in failing health, still fights for his freedom. Let's go back to when you were a young boy. What was your life like?
My real dad passed away when I was 4 and a half or 5. Mm-hmm. My mom was a police officer and a correction officer for 12 years while she went to school to become an attorney.
Ron tells me his mom wanted him to go to college, but it's not for him. He drops out, much to her dismay.
She felt that I needed to go back to school, and I said to her I needed to be rich.
And how did it happen? You became very rich.
At first, it was the nightclub and the music business in 1968.
Some of the world's most successful businessmen are college dropouts. Ron moves from nightclubs to radio stations, first in New York, then in Florida.
Station sold for $5.2 million.
Wow. You've got the Midas touch. Everything's turning out well. But something was missing in your life.
around
My
that
mother
time.
wanted grandchildren.
Enter Heather Stevens, a striking flight attendant who finds Ron in first class.
Heather was a very beautiful girl, as beautiful as any movie star in Hollywood. She sat down and had several drinks with me, and as we were going down the walkway to the main terminal, I said to her, if you want to see me again, I'm going to Daytona now, why don't you come now? And she came home with me that day, and she never left.
In 1988, self-made multimillionaire Ron Samuels marries first-class flight attendant Heather Stevens.
Nice suit.
It's a Hollywood story.
What do you think of this?
Midwest beauty marries rich bachelor. But after 3 children, the plot turns bad.
Heather describes you as a man who is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What do you say?
I'd say I'm human. I know I probably wasn't the easiest guy to live with.
Tell me the worst thing you ever did with Heather.
The worst thing that Heather used to tell me that I did was that I worked too much.
Heather has a different story. She says Ron physically threatened her.
There's nobody in my family or the way I was raised where a man ever put his hand on a woman. Not my grandfather, not my father, nobody.
This is a classic he said, she said. But both agree by 1992, the marriage is on the rocks. Heather spends time in her hometown of Anoka, Minnesota, with the children. During one of those trips, Ron gets a fateful call.
Late that night, I get a call, and she says to me, I just wanted to tell you, we are not coming back. And I started to laugh. I said to her, what do you mean we're not coming back? She said, I met somebody up here with a bigger wallet.
She said that.
Word for word. I said to her, I don't understand. You have everything in the world you want. You can only wear one Rolex at a time. You can only, what do you don't have that you want? She said, we're not coming back, period, and hung up the phone.
How did you feel?
Hurt and angry.
A very public divorce and drawn-out custody battle follow. Ron wins the first round. The children stay with him and his second wife. But after 2.5 years as Mr. Mom, Ron loses shared custody. Their children move in with Heather in Minnesota.
When you found out that you lost custody of the 3 kids, do you recall how you felt?
I went home and I told the children they're gonna have to go back to Minnesota with their mom. And it was a terrible scene. Ronnie threw himself down on the ground outside by the car and said to me, you lied to us, Daddy. You gave us your word we wouldn't have to go back.
I can see it's hard for you to talk about.
Joe wouldn't speak to me. And Lauren, as she was getting in the car, says, will I ever see you again? I said to her, Toots, I'll be there next weekend. That following week after this happened, I had my first heart attack.
Ron says he starts flying from Florida to Minnesota every week.
I wasn't gonna miss a weekend with my
And
kids.
so this went on for how long?
About 3.5 years.
The resentment is building. And it gets worse. Ron has it in for Heather's new husband, John Grossman. I'm talking with Ron Samuels, a multimillionaire businessman serving a life sentence. In 2006, he was convicted of attempting to murder his ex-wife, Heather, and her new husband, John Grossman. Ron has always denied it, but admits having a beef with both intended victims. His wife over custody, her husband over alarming allegations.
The children started to complain of child abuse and being touched and beat up and all kinds of things. I approached Grossman man to man. I said to him, look, John, if these children tell me one more time that you put their hands on them, we're not going to have any more conversations. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to blow your brains out.
And 2 years later, he's in his vehicle and his wife is shot and he takes a bullet across the chin. Do you see how that looks bad for you?
It only looks bad for me if nobody goes back and takes the testimony of the people who said they did the shooting.
The drive-by shooting is executed by two denizens of the drug world. Dealer Eddie Stafford, the driver, and user Roger Runyon, the shooter. They testify that another man, Hugh Estes, hired them for Ron Samuels. They say they met with Ron to do the deal.
Some people say you were the mastermind. What do you say to them?
I say that's a load of bulk, that because of legal maneuvering, the truth has never come out.
Ron says one of their alleged meetings at a shopping mall could be disproved because of surveillance tapes.
They said they were meeting with Ron Samuels to arrange the murder of Heather and John Grossman.
Mm-hmm. And?
And I said to my attorneys, get the tapes. If I'm on that tape meeting with those crackheads, I'll kiss your you-know-what. Get the tapes.
Did they get the tapes?
They said that the tapes weren't there any longer.
Ron claims those tapes would prove the henchman met someone else, not him. He insists his accusers lied to save their own skins. By testifying against Ron Samuels, they all received immunity.
Candice, this cowardly bastard, sat there and described how he shot my wife in the back of the head, and they had me on trial.
The first Ron says he knew of the murder attempts was when he received a call from his lawyers. They advised him to stay away from the crime scene.
I went right to where the shooting was. I was scared to death. My 3 kids might have been in the back seat of the car. I would never do that to my wife, no matter how mad I was at her.
In October 1997, multimillionaire Ron Samuels becomes the prime suspect in the attempted murder of Heather and her new husband, John Grossman. Ron has been quarreling with his ex-wife, Heather, for years, and she has a life insurance policy for $1 million.
What do you say to that?
Can I use those words on the...
Let me ask you this. How much money were you worth at the time? On the low end?
$30 million. Heather had a policy on me at that same time for $15 million.
According to Ron, he didn't need the money. He says the true mastermind had a bigger motive.
There's no question in my mind that somebody did meet with those people and that the person that met with them and decided to hire them was John Grossman.
Why do you think John Grossman may have had Heather shot his own wife?
I had a prenuptial agreement which they challenged and lost. Grossman was involved in challenging it. Grossman didn't have a prenuptial agreement.
Ron claims John Grossman wanted to end his marriage, but didn't want an expensive settlement.
You think John Grossman was tired of Heather and the kids and...
He was tired of me and the child abuse charges which weren't going away.
And he didn't want to divorce Heather because it would have been cheaper to put a bullet in the back of her
That's
head.
correct.
John Grossman is not here to defend himself. He died of a heart attack in 2005 after he divorced Heather. But the case against Ron Samuels strengthened considerably when he fled the country.
If you are innocent, why go on the run?
I didn't go on the run.
You ended up in Mexico.
I had a return ticket to come back. I had been trying for a considerable amount of time since I couldn't get legal custody of my children, of taking my 3 children illegally and leaving the country with them and starting my life over with them in another place.
Now the story takes another turn because in Mexico, Ron is arrested for cocaine possession. He never comes home to clear his name or get his children. He spends 6 years in a Mexican prison. Ron claims the drugs were planted, but he has to serve his time. Meanwhile, U.S. authorities are waiting to pounce. On his release, they extradite him to stand trial for attempted murder.
They said to me before the trial they'd give me 15 years if I plead guilty. I said to them, I'm not going to plead guilty to something I didn't do. And I'm not going to tell Heather that I did that when I didn't do it. Anybody that would do that to that beautiful girl was a despicable scum of the earth. I could not in good conscience say that I did that when I didn't. I can't live with me if I did it. I didn't do it.
In October 2006, 9 years after the shootings, Ron Samuels is found guilty of 2 counts of attempted murder. He receives 120 years and 1 life sentence.
Imagine that I am Heather. What would you like to say to me?
I want you to know before both of us are out of this world forever that there's no way on this earth that I would have ever wanted to see this happen to you or you be in this shape. And I don't want you to go to your grave believing that I had this done to you what I did. I swear to you, sweetheart, I didn't do it.
Ron Samuels has not seen his children since his trial in 2006. He has written a letter for them.
The only thing that kept me alive is the 3 of you, my flesh and blood. I don't care what anybody in this world thinks about me but you, Joe, Lauren, and your mom. I care what you guys think and what you believe, but most of all, that all 3 of you know the truth. Never, never, never think for one moment, 1 second ever, I would ever do anything to hurt your mother. And I loved her so very much. Please write me back.
Guilt shows itself in several ways. This is one of them. On the other hand, if Ron Samuels is the victim of injustice, his grief must be unbearable. Too many lives have been shattered by this crime. Ron, his wife, and their children all have their own form of pain.